Hi everybody, it's Sarah, and what I'm going to talk about today is finding peace. One of the things that I truly believe is that there's not just one way to do recovery. There's a number of ways. There are wrong ways to do recovery, absolutely, but there are so many right ways, and it's so individual, and each journey is your own. And I think that, unfortunately, the psychiatric model of treatment for eating disorders is pretty limited in its scope and a willingness to integrate different ideas. I'm pretty far removed from the psychiatric model of eating disorders at this point. I shifted to a different sort of focus, and I've been able to do a lot of work with that focus. And so that's what I'm hoping to bring here, is just the idea of abstract concepts that, hopefully we can include, which makes it just easier to go through life with an eating disorder and ultimately to get over it and move on to a better life. I think if you had asked me probably like 10, 12 years ago when I started, what do you want? And I was asked that. I couldn't tell you. Okay, I don't want to be fat, yeah, but I couldn't tell you beyond that. And nothing was meaningful about what I told you. And I think that if I could go back to that person and tell her what I wanted people to help me with, hands down it would be to have peace. And, peace doesn't necessarily mean that you wake up, all Zen-like and walk through life on a cloud. Like, that's not what I was looking for. But a huge part of my eating disorder was PTSD based. So I wanted peace from flashbacks. I wanted to go to bed at night and not dream horrible dreams and then wake up to a worse reality. I didn't want to have this constant ongoing dialogue with myself about how worthless I was, and how stupid and just a waste of space I was. I didn't want to be trapped in that. And the same way to achieve that peace is a bunch of little steps. And am I at peace every day? No, not even almost. But there are moments where if you had asked me, could you live this moment again? I would say yes. Would you live this moment again? And there are even moments that I would say yes. And 10 years ago, I would not have said that. There is absolutely no way that you could ever convince me to go through my childhood again. So it's important to define what peace means to you, and to do that realistically. The reason that I knew the therapist that I work with now was the right therapist for me is because I couldn't tell him what I wanted, but he could tell me what I wanted. I don't know if that makes any sense. But I could tell him, yeah, I want to be okay. That's it. I don't need life to be fantastic. I don't need to be perfect. I don't need to be amazing at everything I do. I don't even need to be loved. I just need to be not tortured in most of every day. And I still have nightmares. I still have flashbacks. I still deal with triggers. But more and more, peace is that realization that this moment is okay. Do I love it? Maybe not. But it's not something that's killing me. It's not something that is compromising who I am or who I want to be. And it's quiet. Like, when I think, it's just quiet. It's quieter anyway. And I don't have the same harsh judgments that I do of myself. Now, how do you get there? One of the things that I find really, really helpful is to ground yourself in the now. today I am doing well. Today I am looking to achieve this. Today I want peace with my body. Today is a new day. Today is the way that I get to move closer to what I want to be. So it's an opportunity and not a chore. Is that easy? No, it's not even almost. And I think that that's a big problem because, you know, we as people with eating disorders are extremely harsh on ourselves and very self-critical. And I think that when you get to a position where you're like that for most of the day, it gets hard to focus on today. It gets hard to focus on the moment. And you remember all your mistakes. And you remember everything about yourself that you hate and the experiences that made you that way. And I think that it gets a little tough. But there isn't anything about you that you can't change. Not on like an abstract level. You can't change the world, and obviously you can't change your body either, but you can change the way you feel about it. You can change the way you interact with the world. You can change, you know, what you value in it. You can change a whole lot of things that people don't really look to change, because they're so focused on things that are physical and tangible and things that are measurable. You know, I actually lost my therapist in the middle of this month. Not the one I'm working with now, but the one I worked with for about 10 years. And he used to tell me that, you know, the climb down the mountain is just as tough as up. And I think that we forget that. I think that one of the really best ways to tell yourself that you're okay and at peace with the moment is to look back from where you've come rather than just focus on where you're going. Both are needed, both are like absolutely necessary. But it might be okay that you can't eat a piece of cake and be okay with that. It's an accomplishment that you can actually get near that cake and be like, you know what, could I even entertain the idea? It doesn't mean that you're all the way there, all the way to recovery, all the way to peace. But it does mean that you're not where you were yesterday, and that's all that's needed. Like it's a process, not an event, and it's progress and not perfection. I think that's where a lot of people with eating disorders get stuck, is that there's no way to do recovery perfectly. And they're so used to controlling everything about their eating disorder that it looks nearly perfect. And that's not the way to live life. Like, there's no way to live life perfectly. You know, I think too what's really, really important is that, you know, a gentle discipline is very good. That means that you get to focus on motivation, you get to focus on better things and improvement and growth and all that. But I think that with that has to come a healthy dose of compassion. Again, easier said than done. But please consider this, that if you wouldn't talk to a friend the way that you talk to yourself, to at least think about that, because you are the only person in the world that you will have forever. From the moment that you're born to the moment that you die, you are, you know, in this relationship with who you are. And I think that most of us are much better friends to other people than we are to ourselves. And I think that it's really, really cruel, some of the things that we say. You know, you're not where you were yesterday, that's all that matters. There's one exception. Obviously, people with very, very low BMIs or who are medically unstable, you need to push more than you need to accept. And I think that, you know, the focus there is then on weight restoration and stabilization of health before it is on, you know, emotional healing. I truly 100% believe that with the right help, anybody can get better from an eating disorder. And like, we're talking full recovery. Unfortunately, some people just run out of time because they get so sick that something gives out. And that's unfortunate. So obviously that needs to be a priority. But in terms of like emotionally and spiritually healing, you know, pace yourself. It doesn't have to all be done in one day. It won't all be done in one day. I think too that I was an athlete for quite a long time. I was an athlete before I had an eating disorder. And I found it really, really helpful. And this is partly why I moved away from the psychiatric model of eating disorder treatment to take up sport again. For me, it was a way to make peace with my body. I didn't like it. I had no use for my body, but I could very much be in awe and respect what it does. And I actually want to do some research in that area. I'm finishing up my human kinetics degree. I decided not to because I don't want to do it with the clinic that I was in. You know, find ways to make peace with your body. Find ways to remind yourself that you have so much to fight in this world as it is. You don't need to be fighting yourself. You know, fight the eating disorder, but on a unified front in terms of emotional self, spiritual self, and just the core of what's alive in you against the eating disorder. Not separating and, you know, destroying who you are as a way to cope with the eating disorder. So in that case, I found activity very helpful. It's, please understand that it's not considered ideal right now. It's something we're moving a bit more towards in the research area. But just find a way to be at peace with your body for something. You know, one of the first things that I remember thinking after I gained weight, I was an EA with this child, and he had very severe brain tumors, so he was epileptic and had some learning disabilities. And I was in his kindergarten class, and you know, he got upset, so he climbed into my lap, and all I could think of was, hey, my lap's at least soft for him now. You know, it's a soft, warm place to be safe. So it doesn't have to be activity, but it can be ways that you admire your body for what it is, which is, you know, pretty amazing. There's a lot that we don't understand about it. There's a lot that doesn't make any sense to us. And it shouldn't be physiologically or physically possible, but it is, and let's celebrate that. Because, and I've said this a lot, is you will be more at peace with who you are and with your body when you're at peace with who you are. Because you'll just be like, hey, this is a pretty good home to someone I really respect. You know, yeah, I don't know, these are just ideas that float around in my head. You're definitely welcome to use them if you want. Please know that you're not going to wake up tomorrow at peace. That it's something that just sort of eases into your life, and you start noticing that. Please know that you're not going to wake up tomorrow at peace. That it's something that just sort of eases into your life, and you start noticing that little things don't bother you as much, that you don't spend as much time ruminating, and that your self-talk is kinder. I find that music works, you know, positive affirmations work. You know, there's a skill in DBT called turning the mind, and what it means is to take something that's really, really, it's objectionable in some way, and to look at it dialectically so that you see everything, and to focus on what you want to see more than what you don't like about it. The other thing is, the other skill that I find pretty helpful in this DBT with regards to peace is radical acceptance. You know, just accepting where you are. Because the more you resist it, that's just one more thing on the list of things you have to fight, and that's obviously not going to get you any closer to peace. In any case, it's getting long, so I will see you next week, and take care of yourselves, and please know that you deserve peace just like the rest of us.